Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today we have the opportunity to work on a Daiwa reel. This is a beauty. This is a Daiwa 7450 HRL ball bearing fishing reel from the 1980s. And interestingly enough, it was first sale in the US and it has a little statement underneath it here. It says engineered and developed by Daiwa Corp in California, manufactured in Japan. And it was right around the time where there's a lot of pushback about folks exporting jobs overseas and production overseas. For example, at this time, Penn was moving some of their lines to Japan for manufacture, the Silver Series line, and others. And well, there's a little bit of pushback, so I guess that was a way to placate everybody by saying, look, it's still being engineered here, just manufactured over there. Well, interestingly enough, Daiwa is a Japanese company. No apologies necessary, I guess, right? All right, we're going to take this apart. We'll show you this reel. It's about, by today's standards, it's probably a 40 size reel. The paint on this reel is held up nicely. The metal plating around the bail arm, it's starting to fray a little bit here, bubble up. And there's really nothing you can do about that. That's just lost painting. It's probably a lot of nicks from hooks hitting it and things like that. But it does function properly. And when a functioning bail is working, you don't need to remove that as part of a service. All I recommend doing generally is just taking some penetrating oil, kind of working it into the seams. That way, if there's any dirt in there, the dirt will flush out. All right. I'm going to start by removing the exterior pieces. I took the nut off the handle. We'll remove the handle now, and as I do that, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel if you'd like to learn about fishing reels, if you'd like to see how fishing reels are serviced, how they're made, who made them, when they made them, all those kinds of things. I try to cover all of that as part of a general service on reels that come into my shop. So today we're going to be working on an early 1980s vintage reel, and it can go fishing today, and it can outfish a lot of the modern ones. So what do the modern ones have against the older ones? It's generally materials that were used to manufacture them. In this case, this is a solid metal body, and well, solid metal bodies weigh a lot. By today's standards, you probably find either aluminum bodies or you'll find graphite bodies and the like. They weigh less, and over the course of a day and then a lot of casting, a lot of times that will fatigue your arms. So there is a little bit of an advantage to some of the what we would call, I guess, space age materials from back in the day. But overall, the reels like these have stood the test of time. They're great reels, and well, we'll show you why. This reel has got a dog working on it now. Before I remove the covers of reels, I like to trip that to the off position. That way, if it's attached to the main gear in any way, it doesn't necessarily fall right out. It does say ball bearing. I'm assuming that's on the pinion gear. Let's open this up and see what we have here. We have a dry reel. Here's your anti-reverse dog. This has an anti-reverse dog where the dog intersects with the outer ring of the reel. I'm going to just put that in for a moment. I'm going to bring this down so I can get access to that crosswind block. And we should be able to remove the main gear now. In this case we can't, so we need to remove the screw that's holding that crosswind block in. That's a Phillips head screw. So when you're working on a reel like this, the first thing you want to do is notice the architecture of the reel. I encourage you to take pictures as you're going along. That way you won't get lost if, well, you get lost. You'll have a reference point. This reel hasn't been serviced in a while. I can see that there's a lot of dried grease on the axle shaft. When the axle shaft is removed, you can remove the main gear, and you can see again, service has been at a minimum here. That grease on the inside of your gear is caught in a well, And in that well, there's a lot of dried material in there, which says nobody's been in there to clean this one in a while. Take a picture here. This shows you how that anti-reverse spring is seated, just in case something gets knocked off there. It's got a tag end that's short that goes into the case here, and the other end goes onto the carrier for that switch. If there's anything about the old wheel architecture, that's it right there. It's making sure that you know where your springs are at all times. Not only because, well, they're kind of different in a lot of cases, but more importantly, if you knock that spring off, you want to know how to get it back on, since there will be limited documentation. I've just sprayed the wheel with some penetrating oil, and that's going to help me use a flat-bladed screwdriver as a scraper to get off some of that varnished and dried grease. You don't want to leave this on there. If you're servicing a reel and you have the old greases kind of puddled in there, you want to get them off, because the chances are that they're containing micro bits of contaminants in there that can wear down the reel over time. This grease puddles in there because, well, that's centrifugal force. As you're spinning this reel, the grease that's on the teeth spins inward and collects in this little bowl. So you want to clean it up. This is removable. You can clean that up. And we can clean the back shaft. Once you've got the grease off, check the teeth, make sure that they're all clean, that they're uniform, that they're not bent out of shape in any way. And I'm just using a couple of brushes, bristle brushes, just to pull some of the grease that I see in there out through those channels. Okay, that's in good condition. A little bit of grease on the front here that we can clean off. And put that into our parts tray. Do the same thing for the other pieces here. We have some old dirty grease on the back of the crosswind block. And if you can just get it off by just rubbing it against the paper towel, that's good. If you can't, go to something a little bit stronger. Again, you might want to use a flat-bladed screwdriver. Dull enough, you're not going to cut or mar anything there. Just to get the old greases off. And do the same thing we did with the main gear. Inspect the teeth. Pull through on those, make sure that all those teeth are clean. And I have that paper towel under there just for this. So when I pull it off, kind of the dirt goes onto the paper towel and away from the gear and away from my bench, so that as it's time to put the next project up, I don't transfer the greases and dirt debris there. That's good. And we'll take one more look. We got a lot of dirt on our crosswind block as well. So kind of repeat the same thing. While I'm doing that, I want to encourage you to ask questions if you're curious about this wheel or the company or fishing reels in general. Maybe you're working on a reel and you're stuck. Maybe you need a little assist. I'll try to provide that for you. The whole idea behind the channel here is to transfer knowledge to enable you to service the reels yourself. Okay, I think we've pretty much done the house cleaning here. I can go in here. I'm going to take this one off. One more piece here, which is the gear that goes on the back of the main gear. Goes on like that. And we'll go up top. We'll take this off. We'll get to that bearing assembly, and that'll enable us to complete the service of the reel. Right now I'm looking for a little 12mm tool I have. I think that's a 12mm nut. It is, and this is a deep socket tool. It's actually a Mitchell tool, but the tool enables me to reach into the bowl to remove that nut. Try turning it in a conventional counterclockwise manner to see if it unscrews. If you're not having any luck, turn it in the opposite direction. Some of these reels are reverse threaded, so you just be patient. Don't try to wrench something off just assuming that it can only go in one direction. We're going to pull this off. We got the blistering that we saw on the metal work I got that inside here. That blistering, well, there's also some old sand and the like in there. So clean the bowl out. This does have a hold fast here. If for some reason that pops out, don't worry about it. Just again, use the penetrating oil to loosen up the click mechanisms here. I know it fires. And you're seeing it go below. This actually has a collapsible valve for transport, so that if you put it in a car or something, it's not sticking out where it can get damaged. One more piece here then is to remove this snap ring. I have a snap ring pliers for that. These snap ring pliers have two small points on it. They insert into the two small holes in the snap ring. In this case, I think that snap ring I don't think I'm going to be able to get to that snap ring. Sometimes I have a smaller plier here, so take a quick look. If I can't get it with that, I know the bearing's working. Yeah, that's going to be too big for these. Interesting. Usually I have the tool for this. I don't have that today. Okay, well, the pinion gear is out. Testing the bearing, that works okay. So we're just going to have to, unfortunately, live with that right now. I'm going to take fishing reel oil and oil that bearing up good. We'll do the same thing with the pinion gear that we did with the others. Use a bristle brush to pull through on the slots to make sure that I get a lot of grease out of there. And then you can also run a cotton swab through the center to pull out any greases there. And then we can reinstall this one. So it doesn't take much to service a reel like this. It takes a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of patience, and as I always like to say, a little sense of humor. Sometimes things are just going to happen like that. You don't have the tool for that snap ring. And again, if that bearing was noisy, if it was cranky, if it was broken, of course you're going to take it out and replace it. In this case, I think we just got lucky. Alright, the pinion gear goes back in through that bearing. Hold the bearing by the bottom. Bring your rotor over. Find the two flat sides. Grab your rotor nut. Because that came off in a counterclockwise manner, it goes back in the clockwise direction. And this is a testimony to the quality of the reel manufacturer. This is a 40-year-old fishing reel, right? It was made in the 1980s. It's still going strong. We often wonder about the reels being made today, which ones will make it to their 40th anniversary. All right, there's a little bit of dirt on the back here. I just want to see if I can't get that out. Mop that down. And this is where you actually run into chances where you might knock that spring off or something like that. All right, next up then is our crosswind block. That gets grease on all sides. The back side's going to run against the case. The front side's going to have the crosswind block running on it, and the teeth are going to intersect with the gear on the back of the main gear. Bring that in. And I didn't take the axle shaft out before. I'm going to do that now because we are going to check the drag washers in this. This has got a push button release on it. We're going to pull that through. All right, clean up the axle shaft here. Make sure you check it. There's a little bit, again, there's got a continuing theme going on here. There's a little bit of bubbling on the plating. I'm going to use some steel wool just to kind of polish that off. Okay. Next up, we'll bring the crosswind block in. The only thing you need to grease on the crosswind block is where it's going to ride on that stud. The rest of it's going to ride above. And then you can do this two ways with the main gear. You can put the main gear in next, or you can actually slide this gear off of that, stick it behind, then attach your axle shaft, and then attach the gear. We'll show you that method. You can go in either way. It's probably easier, probably has a little bit more clearance on it if you go ahead and put that axle in first. Alright, we've got a good amount of grease onto the main gear. I'll show you how to do that with the gear being off. You're going to slide your gear in behind, mesh it with your oscillation gear like that. Bring the axle shaft in from above. Just a light coating of grease on that. I've mentioned on other videos, you need to be careful with the grease, because if you don't, if you put too much on, it's just going to get pushed off as you thread it through that pinion gear. Alright, start that screw. A lot of things going on here. We can get some of those things off. I'll put the screw back in. You can see relatively simple design. Simple is good. Simple is why fishing reels last. Not overly complicated, one ball bearing. And now you have two flat sides. Just find the flat sides in that inner gear. That went easy. And there we have it. So now when we turn our rotor, you're going to notice that our axle shaft is going up and down. Very good. Alright, the last thing to do on this side then is just set your anti-reverse dog. You're going to set it by pulling back on this. Make sure I have the orientation right. I have it. So you have a slot, a flat slot here, right there. Flat stud on this side. This lever that needs to go inside that flat slot. So it's resting on that. And give it a turn and it'll usually pull your case in. 3 screws. We can put those back in. And we'll just take a quick look at that case up top there. The drag washers. And we'll have this one fishing again in no time. Probably need a bigger screwdriver there. This is a Phillips head screw. They also have those Japanese screws. And I have a driver for that, but I'm not sure if that's this one or not. These are beautiful materials. That's the other thing you'll find versus today. This has got a stainless steel screw in it. Again, nice metal casing. All made real. Tighten nose down. Bring our handle over. The handle has got a collapsible feature to it as well. This one can be set for either side of the reel, so depending on which way you want to crank, they have it for you. You can simply move it to the other side. Reverse the process that I'm using here. So I gotta get that washer on first. And thread it in. When you finish tightening that up, there's only one thing left. And that is the spool. The spool has got a C-clip, circular clip here. It's a ring. It's a snap. It's not a snap ring. It's just a simple ring that rides in a groove. Find one of the slots and start to pry it open. Now this one's a heavy-duty spring, so be careful with that. And now we can remove our washers, see what we have in here. And we have hard washers. So the hard washers are not permeable. You do not need to grease or oil these. And generally speaking, that's what a lot of these reels did in the 70s. They kind of assumed that folks weren't going to do the drag services on them, so they simply put materials in that didn't require that. But what you do need to do is you need to check these. You need to make sure that they're not broken. And on the metal ones, you want to make sure you clean off any dirt and debris that might be on there. So the top drag fishing reel, this is a 6 set, so it would have a Teflon one in the middle. It's got 2 washers that are called keyed washers. They go high and low on the metal side. One in the middle is called an eared washer. So just want to alternate them as they go in. So we had the first of the red. Now we have the Teflon, and we have the eared washer goes in the middle. It fits in the slots of this. The last one up top, the second keyed washer, and then the spring. Now the spring, I don't know if I'm going to need an assist on. This is a pretty heavy-duty spring. Put it into a groove on the one side, and kind of walk it around. I think we might get lucky there. Yeah, we got lucky, so there you go. So the reason why you want to check this is when you're spinning your wet line, the wood is falling off and into this bowl, right? And it's got nowhere to go but down, and that's what clogs those drag washers from time to time. All right, we can take this then and reset this onto the shaft. Bring our piece on, and this should have that release like a Mitchell reel. If you push the button in, the spool can come off, right? Okay, and lock it back on. Very good. So we've taken this reel apart completely. We showed you how the reel was made, showed you how to service the reel. You wanted to make sure it was clean. We saw some dirt in there. You wanted to make sure you inspected all the pieces and parts so that the damaged ones could be replaced if necessary. Showed you how to service the drags, lubricate it, put it back together. Not sure if I did show this part. So this is the collapsible handle. So you can bring that handle in for storage. And you can also have that, let's do it this way. You also have that collapsible bail where if you pull this trip out, that folds in. So there's less things to get bounced around and broken if you collapse these features. Bring that out. This screws in and out to tighten and loosen that handle. And that's it. So let's take a quick ride on that. Oh, this one's just such a nice, smooth running reel. Beautiful reel. Got a lot of fishing left in this one. And that's it. That's how to take apart and service the Daiwa 7450 HRL ball bearing fishing reel. I hope you've enjoyed that. If you did enjoy it, I want to encourage you again to subscribe if you haven't subscribed, to like the video if you've enjoyed it, and to keep watching for the next time to see what kind of reel we will be working on. Before I leave, I want to take a minute to thank our first responders, our police, fire, safety, rescue, everybody involved in keeping us out of harm's way. I want to thank you for sticking around, watching, and hopefully learning a little bit about this Daiwa reel. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, wishing everybody a great day.